Hello everybody, Lewis Nichols here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time. You're a fine looking bunch, and I'm glad you stopped by. This is the channel where we usually talk about world building, but today we're not. Instead, we're going to take a look at an encounter map I've created and talk about some possible situations that could occur on it. You know about random encounters, right? They're best when completely thought out, so start your planning here. You can export maps like this and reopen them in printer-friendly formats like Microsoft Paint. Once they're on paper, you can file them away and use them as needed. You can place the random encounters you find and develop here as part of your story arc to reinforce lore and in your world building projects. Or maybe you just need a little something for the party's current journey through the wilds of your world. Looking Desert Spring over, you can see you have several points of interest. First and the most important is the road. This is not a heavily traveled area. I'd place it in a dry region separating more habitable lands. A group of wagons could make maybe 15 miles a day in a place like this. Horsemen maybe 20. I think that Desert Spring would get maximum value right about 40 miles from nowhere. It's not that hard to carry a day's worth of water, but if you're making a 3 to 5 day trip, it sure is nice to stop for a refill at the halfway point. The road is packed dirt and doesn't take much maintenance. After the occasional storm, bordering nations send out crews to fill in washouts. These might be gangs of prisoners or professionals. Maybe one side goes to more effort. If it fits your story, be sure to mention where the state of the road declines or begins to improve. The second point of interest is the camp. A long time ago, a keep stood on this slight rise. It protected the natural spring, enforcing fees for water and charging a toll to pass. The scattered stones are the last remnants of the wall. The plant life in the corner clings to the improved ground. Perhaps it was once the keep's garden or where the stable stood. You could hide up here. Orcs are going to be a regular problem, but I'm thinking something a little more challenging. If the party's smart, they'll send up a scout before getting within projectile range. What's going to happen to them when they discover a medusa? Run that scout encounter without the others in earshot. If the scout is petrified, the others will have to react honestly because they just don't know what happened. It's important to play bad guys like this as intelligently as possible, but don't get over-invested in the process. You're not trying to win, just give the party a challenging encounter. It will be a great story for years to come when they reminisce about all the trouble they had getting two petrified party members across the desert. The Procession of Turtles. I honestly threw these guys in because I found the turtle stamps and I just couldn't resist. In my head, these guys had been called by some powerful force at the edge of the desert. Using Speak with Animals, they only know that they are being summoned and they choose to answer the call. If the party follows up, I would have them meet some powerful figure like a nature priest in the process of improving the local land. The turtles will become enchanted beings serving as conduits to some god and bringing more rain and fertility to their little corner of the world. Don't make it life-changing. This can just be a couple of 100 acres, some guy's villa in the desert. Next up, it's the Watchtower. The retaining wall for this thing is a mess. Barely a pile of rubble remains. But the tower itself is in good shape. It's often occupied as a camp for small parties. But if I was going to make it the center of attention for this encounter, I would turn it into an attempt to extort a toll. A voice yells down in the garbled speech of an unknown language. A moment later, clearer words follow. Throw down your gold for that water. There, did you understand that? The goblins can be negotiated down to just a few silver. If refused, they will fire down on the party, but without scoring immediate, meaningful damage, they will quickly try to surrender. Never mind. We were just testing you. You pass. Enjoy that water. If the party attacks, the goblins can still put up a fight, dropping rocks from relative safety. They have no defense against AoE, but you can place some information with them relevant to the quest. Maybe just a treasure map. The goblins are right to an extent. It is a test. Now, certainly I wouldn't penalize the party for blasting them, but it is an opportunity to show mercy for characters that are so inclined. Meanwhile, the southeast corner of the map is the beginning of a biome change, that being from hard soil desert to sandy desert. You can place any number of dangerous beasts out in the sand. I'm certain it wouldn't be so... Hey, you hear a rumble. Stones shift. The tower sways. Out in the waste, there is a disturbance. Sand blasts skyward as two great wings unfurl. The sight is terrifying and unmistakable. An adult red dragon lunges from the sand, lumbering forward. Initiative. As fun as that one would be, there are plenty of other uses for the map, and a lot of them non-combative. Any road presents an opportunity for an encounter with traveling merchants. They could be quite important. As a route between two nations, it's entirely possible that a trade permit is required to travel the road with cargo. This expands potential encounters to include smugglers and law enforcement. The oasis will be a layover point for more notable travelers as well. Could be diplomats, could be minor royalty, maybe it's somebody on flying mounts. I figure it's still a few days traveling by flight, and I bet you a hippogriff would like a little drink of water on the way. Could be it's time to introduce the idea of flying mounts to your party, and now's a perfect time to do it. You can interact with those NPCs over all kinds of information as to where they got them and how much they are to maintain. Finally, perhaps the nations on either end of this road have found themselves at war. I'm picturing Gettysburg. The party has been sent out to secure the crossroads for the coming occupation force, but find it has already been occupied by the enemy. The party takes the ground, but that night the enemy retaliates with raids. In the morning, 100 heavy infantry storm the ridge. The party withdraws to meet up with their own vanguard, and the fight continues. As a DM, you can run the map taking full advantage of all this cover. The roads with their fences running down the sides, the camp, and the tower all come into play. It's true, running big battles in D&D can be hard and very time-consuming, but there are methods out there. That sounds like the subject of a future video for this channel. It's been a while since I did a Fantasy Warfare episode. That's all for now, folks. But before I go, I feel like YouTube has tweaked their algorithms recently. I had a couple of videos do pretty damn well last month, but the last round kind of fell off. It's probably my fault. Probably published too many videos too quickly. But the point is, if you've gotten this far into the video, you probably like the idea of encounter map essays. So check out the playlist. You'll find a discussion about a map called High Ground and some other stuff too. Because it didn't get much exposure the first time. It deserves a chance. And don't forget to find me on Incarnate for copies of the maps. In the meantime, I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Cheers!